Reading this morning comes to us from the Gospel according to Mark, picking up the story after Peter has made his confession of faith that Jesus is indeed the Messiah, the Christ, the one who God has sent to save his people. Reading from Mark chapter 8, beginning at verse 31. Then Jesus began to teach them that the Son of Man must undergo great suffering and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, and be killed, and after 3 days rise again. He said all this quite openly. And Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But turning and looking at his disciples, he rebuked Peter and said, "Get behind me, Satan, for you are setting your mind not on divine things, but on human things." He called the crowd with his disciples and said to them, "If any want to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake and for the sake of the gospel will save it. For what will it profit them to gain the whole world and forfeit their life? Indeed, what can they give in return for their life? Those who are ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of them the Son of Man will also be ashamed when he comes in the glory of the Father with his holy angels." The word of the Lord. Do you have a favorite restaurant? Maybe it's a place that has a great selection or has all your favorite foods at the right price. Or maybe it is a place with an appealing ambiance, a place where you can gather with your friends. Either way, you go to be fed, right? You receive your meal and then you pay your money. And if you don't like what is served, you go elsewhere. Sometimes, I believe, people treat churches like restaurants. A place where you go to meet your friends and be fed. You receive the meal of worship and then you pay your money, the offering. Of course, if you don't like what the place serves, if it doesn't satisfy you, why, you simply go someplace else, right? Let's see, in this analogy, what would that make me? The chef? Maybe the maitre d'? Well, anyway, the consumer culture in which we live makes it tempting to try and serve what people want, and why not? If churches are going to remain competitive, we have to satisfy our customers, right? We have to offer what people want, or they will go elsewhere. We have to cater to the appetites of society, or we'll go out of business. So what can the church say to those who complain that they are not being fed in worship? That worship doesn't meet their needs, that worship doesn't fulfill them? Well, what else can we say but this? "Get behind me, Satan, for you are setting your mind not on divine things, but on human things." You see, the heart of worship, like the heart of discipleship, is self-denial. It's not about getting great service. It's about honoring God. Anyone who comes to worship to be moved, to be fed, to be forgiven, has their mind set on human things, as if the church were a restaurant where you pay for service. But those who come here to share the gospel, to feed others, to offer forgiveness to others, have their mind set on the divine. In this light, self-denial makes gospel sense. Rather than demanding that we receive our due in worship, the church takes joy in sharing the gospel. The church is fed by feeding others, and the church truly experiences forgiveness by forgiving those who have sinned against us. This is what Christ did on the cross. This is the power of the gospel. And when we come to worship in order to serve God and others and not to be served, we truly honor God. In this light, worship is more blessed when we give than when we receive. Indeed, all of worship is our offering to God, and not just the money we put in the plate. We give our time and attention. We give our hearts. We give our minds. And if you want to practice self-denial in preparation to bearing your own cross, in preparation to following Christ, do not ask if you are being fed in worship, but ask yourself, are you feeding others? Look at it this way. Do you have any idea how much power you wield in this church? You can complain about the lack of attention you receive. You can lament that no one understands you. And you can spread discontent like a rain cloud over a picnic wherever you go. Or you can deny yourself, and you can take an interest in the lives of others. You can seek to understand what someone else is going through. You can spread hope like a rain cloud over thirsty soil. Either way, you can make a profound difference in the lives of everyone else in this church. So which will it be? Will the difference you make be self-centered, or by practicing self-denial, will it be Christ-centered? That's just the whole point, isn't it? In order for you, for the church, to be Christ-centered, we have to first take a step back, make that conscious step to deny, however modestly, our own needs that allows us to serve others in Christ's name. Such acts won't happen naturally. By nature, humans are self-centered. Self-denial is the conscious decision to make room in our lives for another. Parents have practiced such self-denial, some better than others, of course, since the beginning. And the church calls on all who profess faith in Christ to likewise practice self-denial in order to serve others and not ourselves. So today we will celebrate the Lord's Supper together. And again I ask you, which will it be? Self-centered or Christ-centered? Are you only thinking about feeding yourself, about what you will get out of this meal? Or are you at least equally concerned that others are being fed, both here and in the rest of our community? When you practice self-denial, can you be fed at the Lord's table without being all the more conscious of those who hunger in our world for a saving faith in Christ, those who hunger for justice, or those who are hungry without knowing where they will get their next meal? When you practice self-denial, can you celebrate the Lord's Supper without sharing your concern for those at the table with you today? If you have indeed made room in your heart to be Christ-centered, won't you seek to be there for others? Open the door of your heart to them and ask them to share their journey with you. Which will it be? Will you be like so many in our consumer society who come to worship and ask, what can my church do for me? Or will you come at every opportunity in order to ask again and again and again, what can I do for my church? Let all God's people say,